the yearbook of this girl here, Becky, who one day would become my wife. I know, right? And see how she wrote next to this guy's face? Foxy. That wasn't me. That was me. Nobody called me Foxy, go figure. Middle school was horrible. I got bullied, I got teased, I didn't fit in anywhere. And there was, back then, really nowhere to escape to. We didn't have smartphones, we couldn't text, we had no social media, no internet, no cable TV, no way to record any programs, no video games. Well, okay, we had Pong. Yeah, that would keep you going for hours. The only thing you could really do was either go outside and play, I hated the outside, or you could read, and I hated reading. Given the choice between the two, I chose reading. The first books I remember reading just for fun were these, The Lord of the Rings. Monsters and magic and evil lords, great stuff. Then I found out that I had a teacher in the middle school called Mrs. Past, and she had done her master's thesis on The Lord of the Rings. I figured that she must be the coolest English teacher ever, and I really wanted to get into her class. The only problem, she only taught honors English, and I had never been in honors anything. Nevertheless, I went to the principal and I said, I really would like to get into Mrs. Past's English class. And he looked at me like he wasn't sure who I was. Well, I'll ask your regular English teacher about it tomorrow. The next day, my English teacher asked me a question for the first time ever. I don't think she knew who I was either. She said, yes, in the back, Ricky. Can you tell us what irony is, please? This was my big chance, and I froze. I said, irony is the fact that I can't think of the definition of irony right now. She bought it, and I got into honors English. This was my all-time favorite teacher. You know, you hope you have a few good teachers in your life like this lady. She got me immediately. She said, you like comic books? You like the mythology and the Lord of the Rings? You should be reading the Norse myths. So she introduced me to Odin, and Loki, and Thor, and all of those guys. She's also the one who told me I should be a writer. I wrote this story for her called Appointment with an Archangel, and it was like this, about this guy who dies and goes to heaven. She told me to send it off and get it published if I could. Now back then we didn't have Wattpad. I mean, if you wanted to publish, the only thing you could do is send it into a magazine and hope that they liked it enough to publish it. So I waited for 6 months and I got this response. My first rejection. Yeah, it's so old, it's done on carbon paper and it's typed. And the guy was pretty nice. He says, hey, for somebody who's 13, this is really, really good, but we can't publish it. Keep trying. My mom was so proud that I got rejected. She put this in a frame and she hung it in the house, and I had to look at it every time I walked through the living room. True story, when I was in college, my mom's house burned to the ground. Everything was destroyed.
Except that.
Except that. They pulled the letter out of the fire, totally fine, put it back in a frame, and it's still hanging in my mom's house. Rejection is a powerful thing. Well, I went on to high school. I kept trying. I decided I would go for the hippie look and grow my hair out. I know, I'm rocking the dude, right? Yeah. I kept a journal because they told me that's what writers are supposed to do. There's a page from my freshman year journal. I was reading this the other day, and I had this one line in there that I couldn't remember. It said, I'm looking forward to being freed at the end of the 6 weeks. I was like, freed? Oh my God, I forgot about that. In Latin 1, when I was in school, the freshmen had to be sold at a Roman slave auction. Can you believe this? I mean, they actually did this? And so we had to stand up on this like podium, and all the upperclassmen were bidding on us. Like, $5 for the ugly one. $6 for the, let me see his teeth. And so I had to be be this guy's slave for 6 weeks. And every day he'd be like, slave, bring me cookies. It was horrible. So everything I know about Rome, I learned from Latin 1. I also published an underground newspaper, which made fun of the football team and other great things. I got in some pretty serious trouble for that. I got kicked out of classes for mouthing off. My grades were terrible. I never read a single book that was assigned to me in high school English. Not one. I read them. I was just really good at kind of making it up, and I was a good writer, so I could get away with it. However, I probably would have gotten kicked out of school, except for one thing that kept me in school. I met a girl. Yes, that's Becky, who I showed you earlier. We started dating in high school. We've been together ever since. 30 years this summer. Wow. To senior party. See, at Alamo Heights, we were too cool to have prom. We had a senior party. And she sort of really was my Annabeth. I, like Percy, was just a big goofball, you know, and I was getting kicked out of everything. She was the smart one. She was the level-headed one and kind of kept me in school. Well, we went on to college together, and I decided, hey, I'll just be a rock star. Can you believe the hair got longer?
Yeah. Nice.
Because being a rock star, obviously, is much easier than being a writer. So I played around the, the local clubs and stuff, and we did okay, but it was not like we were going to make a living out of it. About the only 2 things good that came out of college were that I got married to Becky, which was awesome. You might notice that there are birthday candles on our wedding cake. That's because Becky and I have the same birthday. We're both born on June 5th. She's 30 minutes older than I am. So we figured we'd just put everything together and have it all on one day, which is great because I've never forgotten my anniversary. Yeah, pretty smart. The other good thing that happened is I decided to become a teacher, and I had to cut my hair. I love teaching. I taught for 15 years, mostly middle school, 6th, 7th, and 8th, and I got a reputation for doing fun activities in my class. Now that was not because I was nice, that's because I'm easily bored. And if I'm bored, then I know my students are going to be bored. I was a terrible student. I understood what it was like to sit in a classroom and be bored out of my mind. And so I didn't want to do that to my kids. For instance, when we did Korea, we brought the local Taekwondo team over and we learned Korean martial arts. They wanted to break boards over my head, I said no. Aww. When we did Shakespeare, I had a theatrical sword fencing master come and he taught the kids how to fence with swords on stage. Imagine 38th graders with swords.
That would have been fun.
That's scary. For us adults.
And they even let me do, I can't believe I got away with this, but when we did Greek mythology, we dressed up in togas and we wrote prayers to the gods, and we went to the back of the school, fired up the barbecue pit, and did burnt offerings. If you ever want to do a burnt offering to Aphrodite, burning Barbie dolls smells really bad. Now, after a few years of teaching, I decided, I really would kind of like to write something again. I didn't really know what to write. I started working on this murder mystery because I've been reading a lot of them. I set it in San Antonio, which is my hometown. I had no idea how to write a book, but I had been telling my students that they should make a mind map, like a sort of brainstorming chart before they started writing anything for them. So I figured, well, I'd try it too. People often ask, how do you do with writer's block? How do you get over that? Well, that's how. When I was younger, I would start a story, just start going. I'd get halfway through, and I wouldn't know what to do. And I'd say, oh, this isn't working. I'll just start another story, and that will be easier. And it never was. Has that ever happened to you?
Yes.
Yeah. I have a binder this thick from high school of half-finished stories, because I kept starting over again. Finally, I found out you can't do that. If you make a map of where you're going, and every square here is a chapter in the book, and you just follow the map, then you can get to the end. You might still hate it. In fact, I usually do hate it every time I write a first draft, but at least you get the whole thing done. Then you can go back and fix it. That's how you get through writer's block. The thing was, though,
I'll let Sophie know.
I didn't know what to do with it when it was done. There's the manuscript, 375 pages. I sent it to editors, I sent it to agents. They all sent it back covered in correction marks. Do they ever make you do that in school? You have to do the second draft? Do you find that annoying? Me too. But after a while, I have discovered that's just part of the deal. No one has ever written a perfect first draft. It cannot be done. I've written over 25 novels. I still can't do that. This whole book had to be rewritten 14 times. It was not fun, guys. But finally, it did get published, and when it did, here's the cover. Big red tequila. Yeah, everything in Texas is bigger, even murder. It did pretty well, and I decided to do several of them. I did one set in Austin called The Devil Went Down to Austin. That was cool. Some of them even got sold into foreign languages. Yeah, that's my second book, The Widower's Two-Step. Can you tell what language? Japanese. Yeah, you manga readers will know that. It goes the other way to an American book. I figured this said The Widower's Two-Step because that's the title. Then somebody who speaks Japanese said, oh no, that says Honky Tonk Girl. So the little things they do, like change the title and not tell you. And inside, always fascinating to me, they don't read right to left. In Japan, you read up to down. I said that at a school in the Bay Area one time, and this girl said, oh, so that's why. I said, what? She said, I was on the plane with someone and they were reading Japanese, and they kept going, glad I can clear that up for her.
Yeah.
People would always ask me, Rick, you have novels published. What did you do before you were a writer? As if, like, now that I have a novel, I'm sitting by the pool all day. Well, let me put it this way. It's really hard to be a writer if that's your major profession. Let me ask you a question. How many novels, or any kind of book, really, do you think the average American reads in the course of the year? Anyone want to hazard a guess? How many books the average American
364.
About 5. Good, we got the pessimist up here. What do you think? About 2. Wow, yes. About 12. You guys are pretty close. Actually, about 15. Yeah. And
I read more than that in a month.
Probably a lot of you are above the average. Right? That's good. We need you to be above the average because 40% of Americans read no books a year.